Welcome back to the studio. I'm Eric C. Jackson. Today I wanted to give an update on just my personal journey, and that really links into where the studio is going, the direction the studio is heading. I really don't talk about my faith too much, but as I'm reflecting on what's happened towards the end of 2024 and coming into this year, I really feel the need to just express my feelings and, just different emotions I've been having, and then how that, links to the studio and my work. I've been doing this since 2012, specifically July 2012 is when I really got into my fine art photography, taking it seriously, shaping it into a business. And as I've, expressed before, is that going into 2024, things had really slowed down to a crawl. And my intentions were to just close the studio and focus on something else, just have a major career change. And that was also my intention, really, as we approached 2025, was just to close everything. And so I started paying off a lot of business debt, paying off a lot of business equipment, cutting down my overhead. I decided to close the Shopify store, and I switched over to Photodeck as the web host and had the print order process completely automated at this point. And that was just taking these steps through 2024. I lowered my overhead by, I want to say, over 70%. I just started getting rid of subscriptions and payments and all this type of stuff that was really just becoming a burden on me, just personally, let alone as a small business. And by the time I got to the fall of last year of 2024, I was in a much better space. The business still wasn't doing great. But financially I was in a better space. And that's when I was approached by a gallery overseas, and they started inviting me to have my work shown digitally in exhibitions, and I went ahead and took advantage of that. So I had my work digitally shown in Paris, in Switzerland, and I know in Spain as well. So that was to close out 2024. But where it really gets into my faith is that there's been prayers that I've had, things that I prayed for like years ago, well over 10 years ago, I would have to say. And my business was a part of that, because I feel like my business is really a part of my purpose for being here on the planet, is to just share feeling, emotion, meaning, different topics through my work, through my photography, through my writing. And again, it wasn't unfolding or taking off the way that I thought it would, especially on a consistent basis. And so I started really giving up on it and just feeling like, well, in my mind, God answers your prayers in three different ways. It can be a yes, it can be a no, it can also be a wait, right? And I feel like I was going in the right direction in terms of the business. And so I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. And nothing was really happening, like I said. And in my personal life, financially, it was just a struggle to keep the business going and keep everything paid for and all of that. And so, as I said, I started working on managing my funds a lot better than I was and cutting back on a lot of things. And again, once we got to the fall, I got to the fall of 2024. I felt like I was in a much better space, but I still wasn't thriving, the way that I wanted to. But again, I started participating in a few galleries, exhibitions digitally, and certain things in my personal life that I had been struggling with for years, like financially struggling with, specifically my credit. My credit was really bad. And I was fighting to get my credit report and everything cleaned up, and had been fighting this particular company since 2019, I want to say, the fall of 2019. And so once I got the business, trimmed down, and the printing, the order printing process, or the print order process, I got that automated. I started looking at my credit report and saying, okay, what do I need to pay off? What do I need to fix? That type of thing. And like I said, I had already been working on this, but now it's like more of my attention could be put towards that, because I had streamlined my small business. So I was just trying to think of how I could get past this one particular company, because they were a huge pain to deal with. And again, I was like trying to clean off my credit report, and I was making some progress, but they were the last one. And like I said, I was dealing with them since the fall of 2019. And then finally, I don't know, I ran across this YouTube video. And it's not like I haven't searched YouTube before, but I ran across this particular video, and the gentleman directed us towards I think it's the CFPB. I think it's currently being shut down now under the new administration. But he just took us through all the steps of how to file to that particular, I guess it's an agency. And so I was like, you know what? I've tried a whole bunch of other stuff to get this particular company off of my report, because it was just negatively dragging my credit rating down. As it was a mistake, right? So I was trying to give them, the right paperwork to clean everything up and stuff. And so finally I filed it with the CFPB, and two days later, I would say within 48 hours after filing my complaint, or whatever you call it, with the CFPB, they cleared it off of my credit report. And this is after almost 5 years, I want to say 4 or 5 years of going back and forth with them. Because I I couldn't get a response from the Department of Education that they wanted. Like they wanted a particular letterhead and particular, message in the letter from directly from the Department of Education, and I couldn't get that from them, from the Department of Education, and so that became a huge hold up in the entire process. And like I said, I was stuck there for years. And again, filed the complaint with the CFPB, and within 48 hours, they cleared it off of, all the three major credit bureaus. And for me personally, everything took off from there. That was like a huge prayer being answered. And as I started working with the gallery that was, I believe they're based in Switzerland, it was like another answer to prayer in terms of what I should do, from this point going forward. Should I go ahead and close the studio and focus on something else? I was just searching for direction, like which way should I go, and so there was things that I didn't have answers to, but I was like, whatever's within my power, I'm going to go ahead and do my best to fix this, right? So once that was off my report, obviously my credit rating took a pretty significant jump, but it still wasn't where I needed it to be. And I will say, I won't go too much into my horrible backstory. But when I was a teenager, about to graduated high school, I burned down a lot of bridges, not literally, but figuratively. And I made a mess of my credit and all, kinds of stuff, right? And even well into my 20s, I had always had a problem with credit cards and spending too much. And I don't think that's, like not normal, but, it's just certain things that I knew better and I was messing up anyway. So the past, I'm going to say at least 2 years, I've really been focused on getting rid of or paying off all my credit cards, and I had a lot. So throughout 2024, that was my focus, was to, another part of trimming down my expenses and paying off debt. And so once the business expenses were down, I started focusing on the personal debt even more. And I was making some progress, but it was slower than I wanted it to be. So my prayer was really, the past year, was I wanted to speed up the process. I wanted to pay off my personal debt a lot faster. Because I would pay some things off and then something would come up, or even if I just want to go to, online and purchase something, it was like I didn't have any, not I wouldn't say any, but as much wiggle room as I wanted to have in my finances. So my day job, I had been contracting there, as I mentioned to you guys before. It is a Fortune 500 company. And I was contracting there for 2 years. My contract was up in February. My contract ended. So they signed me on for a year, and then they re-upped my contract for a second year. And like I said, my second year ended last month on the 21st. And so I was asking my supervisor, like, are they going to renew my contract, or are they going to hire me permanently? And if they hire me permanently, like, where am I going to go? Because my position on my day job, they basically made it up. I applied for the data entry position. I didn't pass the formula portion of the Excel test, and so I did not know that they forwarded my resume to my current boss. She's a special projects manager. She needed an assistant, and her assistants weren't staying on board with her for a long periods of time. So she needed somebody. And so on my first day of work, I thought I was going to do data entry, and I wasn't. It was a completely different job. I didn't know the software. I didn't know the terminology. I didn't know what they were asking, didn't understand what they were asking me to do because it wasn't what I applied for. But it was a raise in pay, pretty significant raise in pay. And I was like, I need to work. So I'm going to figure this out. So I grinded through the first week and a half. It was bad. learning. The first week and a half or so was rough, but I learned. And like I said, this past February or last month, it was 2 years. My contract ended with the temp agency. And I just asked my boss, what are they gonna do? And so a few days later, I started hearing rumblings that they wanted to hire me permanently. And then I had to go through, the company created a position for me because I was basically not a part of any certain department. I was just floating in midair. So they had to put me under a specific department's budget so they can fit in my salary. So then I understood, okay, they made a position for me. I filled out the application and they basically tailor-made the position to fit me. And I'm still working on my regular, what I've always been working on, but they have added, I'm right back to learning some more new software. And there's one other thing that I have to learn how to do, and I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. But it's out of the list of 10 things, there's 2 of them that are brand new to me. And part of that is learning new software. We're going from the old system that I'm working on now to new software or updated software. So we're working through getting me logged in and signed up for that right now. But yes, they hired me. And before they hired me, they asked me how much did I want to make. And going back to my prayers, I don't even know why I was because sometimes it's I talk to God, just talking to God, right? And I was like, you know what? Lord, if I can get to this number per year, I think that it's not where I want to be, but it's better. Because once they started, once I knew I was getting to the end of my contract and I didn't know I didn't know what the company was going to do, I started asking myself okay, if this contract ends, where do I want to go next? And how much do I want to make per year? And I knew I wanted a raise, but I was like, okay, how much is that? And what's going to fit into my skill set? Because my skill set still needs to grow a bit more before I can ask for a higher, salary. So I just blurted out the number. I'm like, I think if I get to this point, this number per year, that I'll be fine. I'll be fine until, and then I can do things to get the business going and marketing and all that stuff. But I was like, the first thing I would do is start paying off the rest of these credit cards. And I was down to 7. I'm just saying I had a lot of credit cards. I was down to 7 accounts. So that's basically what I said. Now, when Human Resources Department called me, I gave him a number, and then I realized that the number that I put on my application was like $5,000 lower than where I was supposed to put it, or where I wanted to put it. But I was like, you know what, this seems reasonable, and it seems like, this is fair. But then when HR called me and wanted to confirm how much I wanted per year, I just gave them the exact number that I told the Lord that I wanted to make. Like, if I bring in this amount of money, I think this will be good. Now, the thing that I messed up on was I was thinking gross income per year, not accounting for how much taxes are going to come out of it, right? Because that will put me into a new tax bracket, and then the taxes go up. I would have to pay more in taxes. So that part I didn't know about until after the fact. I realized it, like, wow, I should have gave a higher number. I should have told HR a higher number. Because after I had talked to HR, I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be gross pay. And then the taxes is going to come down to here. And I was like, okay, that's still a raise, but that's not really, I want to go up a little bit more, right? So anyway, I go, I talk to HR again. I go through my what they call an interview, which they were like, they put the job on their website for 3 days. They only posted the job to the corporate website long enough for me to fill out the job, fill out the application for HR to get it. And then they took the job posting down. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to hire me. So when we went into the interview, one of my new bosses, right, because I'm in a different department, she was really nice and said, okay, we want to give you the job. We just want to figure out what you know, what you don't know, what you're going to have to learn, etc. So it was great. And I was like, yeah, I'm good with it. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk to HR, and hopefully we'll move on. We'll just move forward with you. So that's what they did. And HR sent me an acceptance letter. And then when I got home that day, Human Resources gave me a call. And we were talking. I was like, okay, they wanted to hire me. Okay, great. And then she told me the salary. She was like, okay, if we want to start you here, is that going to be good enough for you? The number that she gave me, that she said on the phone, I thought I didn't hear her right. Because I'm like, this can't possibly be what they're going to start me at. Because it was well over what I told her on the phone. Like, it was well over that. So I was like, yes, that's great. That's fine. And I kid you not, I thought I heard her wrong. So I get to work the next day, and then there's the official acceptance letter in my work email inbox. And there it was. That was the number. And so I looked at the annual salary and I said, okay, if I take out taxes, right, I finally think about the net pay. How much is that going to be? How much am I going to get per year? So I went ahead and I looked it up. And it turns out to be $500 over the exact number I said to God, right? It was a feeling of like almost falling on the floor. Like, they can't be serious, right? But they totally were. They totally were. So I'm not even on the hourly, I'm not on the hourly salary anymore. It's just, or hourly wage. It's just salary. It's like, this is how much you're going to get per year. I do still have set hours, but there is no time clock or anything like that. I'm on a salary base job. So yeah, this is the first time in my life that I've been on this level, I want to say. So we get paid semi monthly. It's weird. It's not bi-weekly, it's semi-monthly. It's on two specific days, or it's I'm still getting used to it, and I had to rearrange my, cuz I had everything on all my bills on auto pay, so I'm gonna have to rearrange some things. But it's definitely answered prayer. And so my first day as a official employee of the company was on March 3rd. And I've been working from home for most of the month. Um, I think I went back to the office today. I went in the office maybe one day last week, but the rest of the month I've been home. Um, and my home situation isn't quite what I want it to be right now. So I'm planning on moving into a better space. But what I what I what I'm focusing on right now is the 7 credit cards that I have left. Um, so I said to myself, by May or June, maybe I can have a few of them paid off, a few of the credit cards paid off out of the 7. And I don't know why my brain didn't actually work like this before, but I sat down 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. But when I got the job, I sat down and I started rearranging my bills, because I just said to myself, I want to get all these credit cards out of the way, like all of them down to zero, like all of my personal cards. And I want to do it as quickly as possible because this has been dragging out for years now. And as I said, I had made a lot of progress, but I'm at the point now where I'm just over it. I don't want I don't want to see them anymore. So I started rearranging stuff, and I thought my idea was a little bit risky because I didn't want to be short on any of the bills, but I front loaded everything to where I started paying off my credit cards like within a week or so. I had some extra money, but I started really like pushing everything to paying them off. So out of the 7, I started on March 3rd, really focusing on this because that's my first day of being permanently on the job. I have already paid off 3 credit cards, if I remember correctly. 3. Yeah, 3 of them are already gone. And then is it Monday? Yeah, on Monday, I'm going to pay off a 4th credit card. And when I initially thought about this, I thought it was going to take me months to get to this point. And it's literally taken me like 3 weeks, which is insane. But like I said, I don't know. I just had this idea, and I started rearranging everything. And I just thought I'm going to blitz, the debt that I have left. and hopefully just get everything out of the way as quickly as possible. So come Monday, I want to say, I'm going to have 4 of the 7 credit cards already paid off to zero. So again, that goes back to answered prayer, because that's one thing that I pray quite a bit. Like in 2024, like I wanted to speed up this process. It was just dragging. Now, the last 3 credit cards are kind of hefty. So I said, okay, in April, take care of one, at least one. In May, do the same thing. And then in June, take care of the last credit card so that by July 1st, it's all gone. Yes, I'm going to have to stay disciplined for another 3 months maybe. But I'm just saying all that to say I'm shocked at how fast I've paid off 4. And the way that I restructure how I pay my bills, I wish I would have thought of this years ago, but I just didn't. And then the bonus part is every time I pay off a card, I have more income each month. So at the end of all this, I'm probably saving $400 or $500 a month, which is going to go into, I need to get a better car. I need to move out of here. So I need that extra money freed up to cover that part of it. But yeah, I would say the speed at which I'm doing this is really has shocked me. And it's just things like that where it's just it took me about a week and a half to understand what was going on, because I started seeing my prayers being answered like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And these are things that I prayed for years, and it just felt like nothing was happening at all, to the point where I just didn't pray about those things anymore. Like I just was like, nothing's happening, I'm not gonna bother. I'm not gonna bother praying about the same thing for like the 1,000th time. So I just, switched my focus to something else. But kid you not, just from the end of last year to what happened with my credit report and the company I was fighting with to right now, it's just me like looking around like what is going on? Like why is everything all of a sudden working like it's supposed to? So really it was like a week and a half of just being like, I don't know how to respond to this, because I know how to persevere and endure and fight and you just go through the grind and you press forward, that type of thing. But I was definitely getting to the point where it was like, God, I'm tired. Like I'm tired. So when I was getting to the end of my contract on my day job, I was like, something's gotta change. I gotta change something. Something's gotta change. And I just didn't know, what was gonna happen or how it was gonna change. I just knew something had to change. So, man, I just am thankful now at this point. Now, am I still fighting with things? Of course. Annoying things start popping up, aggravating things start popping up. Different battles, you tug of war with people and stuff like that. Things start happening with my car, which goes back to the point where I know it's about time for me to trade it in for something new. Um, so it's still battles, but now I can see where this is all going, where I'm heading. And right now I'm in the process of, well, I'm in the middle of my 90-day probation period on the corporate job. So that's going to go till June. And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre because I got hired on March 3rd, right? There's a 90-day probation period. So the 90-day probation period for the corporate job will be over on June 3rd, which is my birthday. And every year, as I might have mentioned this to you guys before, that around my birthday, I start just naturally, organically reevaluating my life, because I'm getting older and it's like, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? Direction, that type of thing. And it's every year, especially when I got in my 40s, it's every year. And this year it was getting rid of debt. Like this credit card debt, getting rid of all of it personally. And other things, like I said, with moving out of here and my car and everything. So, anyway, just how things fell in line like that. I mean, I can only give credit to God for it. And now as I deal with challenges, as I said, I feel like it's just a bump in the road, and I can't let anything deter me from my goal, But yeah, honestly, I'm looking at my accounts now, and looking at these accounts, I was seeing 0 on my report. And of course, my credit rating is going up. And I think around April, the beginning of April, when the new reports come through, I think my rating is going to go through the roof, to be honest. Because then the credit card companies that I paid off, they all have to report to the bureaus at the beginning of April. So I think that first report in April is going to be like, I might fall on the floor again. But it's taken a lot of hard work and discipline, being consistent, and fighting through whatever obstacles. But ultimately, it's like it's like I was saying, God, I need some help, because I think more emotionally, mentally than anything else, I was just getting tired. Because it just feels like you're on a hamster wheel that you can't get off of. And that's not where you want to live. You don't want to live there. So there's other things I want to do. So once, I think the end of June, all these cars will be paid off. Like if I stay disciplined, stay consistent, stay like everything stays on point, they'll all be paid off. And then I will have to start thinking about, I want a bigger place, furniture, car. Do I want a new car, like brand new? Or do I want like a 22, 2023, 2024? Like, how do I want to do this? How much is that going to cost? I went to Lowe's, yesterday, the day before? I think it was on Saturday, looking at washers and dryers, because I do have one now where I'm at here. So I don't want to start going back to the laundromat again, because because I've gotten lazy. Washer, dryer, like all that type of stuff. I want to stay on this side of town, but bigger place. It's going to be more expensive. All of my rent, electricity, water, all that stuff. Like, I have to account for all this stuff. So that's what I'm going to shift to, in thinking about how much do I want to spend. How much do I want to spend? And I'm going to be working from home like 90% of the time for the corporate job. I did go into the office today, like I said earlier, but I'm going to be home the rest of the week. So since I'm going to be spending a bunch of time at home, I want the place to look, nice. Like the granite counters, the stainless steel appliances. I'm thinking patio, maybe not. But definitely washer dryer. In a lot of places I've looked at online, they have the hookups already. So I'm like, well, maybe I just have to buy a washer dryer. Just all this stuff going through my mind now. But all that to say that by this time next year, I'll be in a completely different place in my life, just completely different. And once the credit cards are paid off, in July, my attention is also going to go back to investing in the studio. I've already got my samples for the business cards that I wanted to look at. I think this one, I got it from Moo. They have some nice stuff that I'm looking at, the material and what I actually want the new cars to look like. Inventory, I have to buy inventory from the printer in Germany, and not a huge set, but a sample set to photograph and have as product shots. And so that's going to be pricey to order. And then marketing, which I'm going to go into on another podcast. I'm going to get into that more. But again, it's just a thing of, and I'll end on this note. You can get so used to grinding that when you don't have to grind anymore, like everyone has to work hard, right? But when it's a grind, and then you don't have to grind anymore. I'm going through that season in my life where it's not really a grind anymore. And what does that look like? How do I respond to that? Am I going to turn into like a spoiled, rotten person? It's like I don't know. And so now I'm thinking more about my character and what happens when your prayers are answered. and you get maybe not just what you prayed for, what you wanted, but even more than that, then what happens? So I feel like that's the final test that we as human beings go through. What happens when you get everything you want? It may be even more than that. Can you still be humble? Can you still be kind? Can you still show grace? You know, can you still have a good heart and think about other people and not just yourself? So now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to do my best to establish who I am or who I want to be. And no matter what happens, stick to that. Good times, bad times, stick to that foundation. So, but I'm I don't know what else to say. But yeah, so Monday, I'm going to pay off credit card number 4, and I'm going to have 3 left. And in the middle of next month, I'm going to target number 5 and take a big swing at that, and see what's left on it in terms of the balance on the account. And like I say, just keep doing that through June. And then once July gets here, man, I don't even know. I'll be crying. Like I don't know how I'm gonna respond. Like I have no idea. I really don't. And then I think Friday next week when my credit report updates and I get to see how much progress I've made. Like I don't know how I'm gonna react. Like I don't even know. It's like thank God that, you know, I'm moving so fast in the right direction all of a sudden, you know. But I'm really pushing like this because I'm not going to take anything for granted. Like nothing. You see that it's like being a surfer, right? And the ocean's been basically flat for I don't know how long. And then all of a sudden you start seeing these waves come in, and then the waves start getting bigger and the waves start getting bigger, and you're looking around like, what in the world is going on, right? But at some point it's like, you know what? I'm just going to jump on this wave and ride the wave as long as I can until it goes out, right? Because obviously seasons change. You don't always have waves, you know. You can have entire seasons where it's just flat and there's nothing going on. So what do? You know? And like I said, I definitely was like thinking, okay, this is it. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna give up because this isn't working. But I don't know. I guess the spot that I was in with automating everything was just let it run, you know, let it run, and figure out the rest when I get there, like as I go. But like I said, when that giant waves start popping up, I'm just on that wave and I'll stay on it until it runs out. Now, obviously, I'm thinking, okay, how can I build my own momentum, you know? So yeah, that'll be next. Just figuring out how I can build my own momentum, keep things going. So that's the next thing I have to do. That's the next thing I have to do. So thank you guys for listening. Oh, and I will continue to add more work to the website, the business website, and continue to just learn on my day job, and just keep going, because I'm not even going to pretend like I have all the answers of how everything's going to ultimately work out in totality, but I'm really happy and really thankful to God for where I'm at now and where everything is going, because I feel like as long as I don't do anything immature or irresponsible, I'm not going to be stuck like I was again. Like, I'm not putting myself back in that mess again, right? So just keep stacking wins, as they say, and do that as much as possible. As much as possible, just stack wins. But one thing the Holy Spirit really stressed is my anxiety, like my being anxious. I had to come down from where I was a couple weeks ago, because I was like amped up, when I realized that I can start paying off these things faster. I ran across one of these pastors on Instagram. They post, some of the sermon clips on there, and basically said the same thing, like, it's going to be one day at a time. You're going to have to, it's a long journey, and you're going to have to take this one day at a time. And I wasn't too happy to hear that. I wasn't really happy to hear that, because I was in the process, especially a couple weeks ago. I'm going as fast as I can. And it's going to turn out to be a journey. So one day at a time. Like, obviously we plan, but not really looking too far ahead. Not spending too much time looking back, but just being present in the moment and taking care of that day. Because he specifically said, he was like, I know you want to get out of the valley, but you're going to have to walk. You have to walk out of the valley. You can't get into a car or take a train and have some type of speed, faster shortcut or something like that, or speed up the process that way. You're going to have to walk out of the valley. You're going to have to walk out. And of course, I knew he was telling the truth, because we live life, literally, we live life one day at a time. I'm going to have to walk out of this valley. But he was just encouraging everybody to say that God is with us as we're walking every day. And so don't look past today. Don't get frustrated with, we're not there yet type of thing. So I've challenged myself when I get impatient, because like I said, I've been on this road for a long time. I've challenged myself to, when I get impatient and when I get anxious, to move on. I have to start thanking God for what he's already done. and just remind myself of all the wins that I've already had. You know what I mean? Like all the wins that I've already had. Uh, thank God for those things, and remember how hard it was to get those particular wins and how long it took to get out of those certain obstacles or issues or get past those challenges. Just remember all those things and celebrate all those things. So I've been challenged to celebrate from now, which is about the end of March, to July, when this, particular season is going to be over. Just celebrate during that process and not, be impatient or grouchy or grumpy or anxious about what has not happened yet, right? Or where I'm not or what I don't have yet, right? Just celebrate, celebrate. Because now, if nothing else, I can see, literally, I can see, where everything's going and how I'm going to accomplish my goals. Especially in this particular, with this particular issue. So I'm definitely thankful for that. And like I said, sometimes I just find myself sitting, looking, like staring into nothingness or looking at the ceiling like everything's changing. Like I've been stuck in this season for years, trying to get out, until I just run myself out of energy and I just got tired. And I feel like God carried me to this point until everything, just like I said, one thing after the other, started changing. And now I have an opportunity to recuperate, recover, get my energy back, but also have those moments of remembering that I have to rest and I can't do everything in a day or everything in a few hours. Once I get home from work, I can't do everything at one time. But I have the plan in place and I just do a little bit at a time. And when I need to take the evening off and watch a movie or something, go ahead and do that, go ahead and do that. But it's like, bring the RPMs down, calm down, don't be so anxious, and just walk through, walk through. And I have 2 items that I'm going to leave you guys with that I have on my desk in front of me. Let me grab these real quick. Well, I found, I found both of these at Hobby Lobby. This is the first one. I found it at Hobby Lobby. Be strong and courageous. I think it's Joshua 1:9. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I bought this because I was getting really, I don't know if it was depressed is the right word, but I just felt really stuck in my life. And then the next one I found at Hobby Lobby is Batman. I have one power. I never give up. So even when you feel like it, you have to keep going. So that's all I have. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I believe on the next episode, I will go into marketing organically, how, getting your reach, um, getting better reach for your small business. So I'm going to share with you guys what's been working for me lately. And like I said, once I get into the summertime of this year, um, I'm going to be focusing more attention over into the marketing side of it. So I'm kind of prepping on what I want everything to look like and how I want to approach sharing the brand with more people. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.